Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. In today's lesson, we will talk about minor scales and their different forms. If major scales sound happy, minor scales are the ones that sound more sad or melancholic. This is, of course, a generalization because we use both major and minor scales for both sad and happy music interchangeably. So, again, in music, context is almost everything, but in general, the ear tends to perceive major scales more happy and minor scales more sad. So, in order to understand the minor scales, we need to start with the concept of the pentachord, the minor pentachord, and from there it becomes a lot easier to understand how minor scales are constructed and how they are used. So, if we start again from the C major scale as our reference point, again, we can use any major scale, but C is usually the easiest because it's the one without any accidentals. So you remember very well the sequence, it plays all the white keys, and basically it's made of whole, whole, half, and then whole in between, and then whole, whole, half. And you remember that each one of those was called the tetrachord, so whole, whole, half. And then we bridge with another whole, and then whole, whole, half. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That's a major scale. You can apply it in any key, and in fact, you have 12 of them that exist. So let's take the first 5 notes of the major scale, so C, D, E, F, G, and then let's lower the third one by 1 semitone down. And this is what we get. So C, D, E flat. Remember, we always mention each letter once. C, D, E flat, F, G. You can feel instead of this, we get this. It's a bit more sad, right? And this is what we call the minor pentachord. So those 5 notes, just by lowering the scale degree 3, is called the minor pentachord. Here we see it represented on the staff, and so C, D, E flat, F, G. Now here's the important thing. This, in all the variations of the minor scales, this minor pentachord is always the same. It's what happens afterwards that defines which is the minor scale that we have. So in major scales, there's mainly one version of a major scale. In minor scales, we have 3 versions, and they are the natural minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, and the melodic minor scale. All 3 of them have different uses and applications, but all of them start with the minor pentachord. So those 5 notes are always common for all types of minor scales. So let's start now with the natural minor scale. And so we start with the minor pentachord. And then afterwards, we have A flat, B flat, and then we go to C. And so here with the A flat and B flat, basically this is lowered 6 degree and the lowered 7 degree. And so you have, and you can see the sequence here is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. If you remember this, you will have a natural minor scale. And you can split actually into 2 pentachords if you look very closely. So the first one is what we learned at the beginning. So you have whole, half, whole, whole. And then if you restart from F, you're here, whole, half, whole, whole, which is in itself the start of another natural minor scale. But that's for another time. And so here we write it. Basically, we started with the minor pentachord and we added the flat 6 degree and the flat 7 degree. And so you have in the natural minor scale 3 notes that have been lowered compared to its major scale. If we're using the same, starting tonic. So C and C, there's 3 notes that are lowered here. And those 3 notes are the scale degree 3, scale degree 6, and scale degree 7. The natural minor is the most common minor scale for melodies and general harmony, It sounds sad, soft, or folk-like. It is used in different styles like pop, folk, film, classical from before of the 18th century. The thing about it is that it lacks a strong pull on the scale degree 7. So we are here. You see there's not a lot of tension compared to, you see, it really wants to resolve in the second case. And so this lowered 7 degree basically allows for smoother melodies. It's not really building lots of tension and expecting a strong release. It's more of a flowing type of melody, which you find in a lot of sad songs or melancholic songs, where they're really not asking for a lot of tension or a lot of drama. Of course, all that is contextual. All the chords that play together, the harmonies, all that build up the tension and release together. But if you're isolating only the melody, in itself is pretty smooth. So if I just go back here, you see generally you have whole, half, whole, half, whole. And you see those last two wholes. Typically between whole steps, there's not a lot of tension that builds up. So now let's move to the next one, which is the harmonic minor scale. Again, we start from the minor pentachord. But then after that, we have a lowered 6 degree. And here it jumps to the 7 degree, the original 7 degree. And then back to C, back to the tonic. Interesting. It sounds interesting, right? So you see here you have a half step, and then here you have a 1 step and a half jump between the A flat and the B, which is quite a big gap. And this is what creates this kind of awkward sound. Now you'll ask, why do I need a harmonic minor? Because it sounds a little bit exotic, right? So it has different applications. First is that the leading tone itself, it adds to create tension. It's really great for things like cadences. So for example, we are in the C minor, and the dominant 5 is G. So you have, you see, it wants to do this kind of resolution. So it's quite important for cadences. You use it with the 5 dominant chord or with the diminished 7th leading tone, diminished chords. It's quite typical in classical cadences, in Baroque, also in metal. And yeah, as the ear could tell, it also has a Middle Eastern and Spanish vibe. So, but I mean, that's not its purpose. Harmonically, it's not its purpose. It plays a very important harmonic roles. Later on, when we start to talk about harmonic progressions, you will see that pretty much most of it, except maybe in jazz and so on, is built up on, when we are in a minor key, a lot of it is built up on the harmonic minor scale. So while maybe you don't use it melodically so often because of this gap, although you do in some cases, of course, you use it a lot actually in terms of chord progressions, because this is where you get quite a lot of the tension and release, which is very important in chord progressions, to have a bit of a dynamic movement happening. So as you can tell, this sounds a bit more dramatic, intense, a bit exotic. And so it's a minor with drama behind it and has a strong harmonic pull. Okay, so the first one was like this. That was the natural, the harmonic. And so if we write it, basically, we're lowering the scale degree 3 and the scale degree 6, but we're leaving the scale degree 7 intact. And now we move to the melodic minor scale, which is the third variant. And again, we start with the minor pentachord. And from here, there's 2 forms that can take. One is ascending when you go up, and the other is descending when you go down. When we're doing ascending, that would be the form. Basically, the remaining notes are similar to C major. Again. It sounds fairly smooth because you have a lot of whole notes here, while on the scale degree 7, you're still creating that tension towards the tonic. But it flows quite nicely. It sounds a little bit less sad than the other two, but it's quite useful for simple melodies. Then when we want to go backwards, or when we want to go down, can you go down like this? Yes, but it sounds very weird. It sounds actually very major because that's major. And then here is the minor. The minor information comes very late. Yeah, it doesn't sound very minor. It sounds a little bit off. That's why there's a descending form. So this is the ascending. We just lower the scale degree 3. And the descending is basically like this. And you can notice that the descending is exactly like the natural minor. So the ascending is this. And the descending, we just use the natural minor. And so when we write them, it's we lower the sevenths, scale degree 7, scale degree 6, and scale degree 3. And so you can see we can flow it up and down. And that's the melodic minor scale. It's designed for smooth vocals or instrumental melodies. You can see it really flows very easily. It's less awkward than the harmonic minor scale, so there is no augmented second. Sorry. You don't have this augmented second. It's common in classical melody writing, in jazz. It's also called the jazz minor. And specifically in jazz, the ascending form is not just used melodically, it's also used harmonically. So there are chords that are built up from those. It sounds a bit refined, it's flowing, it's less intense than the harmonic minor, and so it's a minor with a smoother melodic motion upward and smooth melodic motion downward. And so these are basically the three forms of minor scales. Just some usage examples, and really this is very, very generalizing because you can use each one in any context that you like. But in general, for general tunes, natural minor is the one used. For classical cadences, of course, the harmonic minor is important. For smooth melodic lines, we have the melodic minor. For metal riffs or exotic sounds, this is where we use harmonic minor. Jazz improvisation, melodic minor. And for film tension, either the harmonic or the melodic minor. But honestly, you should try yourself and find out. Try it in different contexts. And that's actually, I prefer minor scales even more than major, personally speaking, because it opens up for a lot of variations, a lot of nuances that the major are pretty robust. With the minor, you can really create different tonal textures or different flavors, or kind of subvert a little bit the expectations. Somebody's expecting, they're expecting this. You can play around, you can switch around from one to the other. Nobody said you have to stick to one type of minor scale. You can actually play around in how you want to shape the sound and the melody. And that's what's so beautiful. And it's always, that's why minor scales and this kind of melancholic, sad, there's always some magic to it. And this is where the magic is. It's just playing around with the sounds to get a bit of nuances on the feeling you want to convey. And it's not like robust, mathematical. And that's what makes it so beautiful and so artistic in itself. So those were the three minor scales. Let's take a quick look in a different key. It's all the same principle. So I picked here the A major scale. Okay, so you remember from previous lessons, there are three sharps in it, and we start with the A. And so the A natural minor scale, we have to lower the scale degree 3, 6, and 7. So you see here, to lower them, those are actually the 3 ones that have the sharps, and so we use the natural here. And interestingly enough, now we're using only the white keys, which makes you think, can't I use the key of C actually to play the A natural minor scale? The answer is yes, but I will leave that for the next lesson. The next one is the A harmonic minor scale, where we lower scale degree 3 and scale degree 6. Again, you see the augmented second and the cadence. And then for the melodic minor scale, so for A minor, we have the ascending and the descending. In the ascending, we lower only the scale degree 3, and in the descending, it's a 3, 6, 7, just like the natural minor. So you see how it flows, huh? And that's it. That's a recap of the natural minor scale, harmonic minor scale, and melodic minor scale. What I can suggest is take a snapshot of this photo here, because that's really the summary of it. And again, in the next lesson, we will talk more about the keys, because that's not the correct key to write A natural minor scale. I use the A major key to write it. But as you could tell already, if we use the key of C major, it's more convenient for A minor scale because they share the same notes. But let that sink in a little bit, and we'll talk about it in the next lesson. So that's it for now. If you have any question, go ahead and write it in the comment section. I will make sure to answer as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this lesson, go ahead and subscribe, and I wish you a fantastic musical day.